safety, health, science, and music. Okay, welcome back mga talagingging. Oh my gosh. I cannot stabilize. Okay, let's see it. Okay. Things like this. Okay. So I cannot manage like that. Okay, guys. Welcome back to my whitey world. Hello.
The Bluetooth device is ready to pair.
Hello. Welcome back to my whitey world. This is again. No, sorry. I'm still remembering my old whitey channel, but I have now the new channel, the whitey channel, which is Science, Health, Safety, and Music. Okay, last week, okay, I am discussing about English examination, right? So let's shift a little bit, guys, because we will come back a little bit. Okay? Walk a little bit, yes. Let's go to the basic foundation, huh? To the point. But I found it difficult to adjust the screen. How can I do this? I am not a professional, vlogger. I am really, an ordinary vlogger. Wow. Accepting the reality. Yes, of course. Oh my gosh. Okay, so whatever happens, regardless of anything. Oh my God. Safety and health, which is my career path at present, right? So, as you are wondering that I rarely vlog, but things like this, if I miss to vlog about what station I can do, right? Okay, so we need to discuss the basic safety concepts first before we will go farther. Okay, so where is my... I'm very old. I'm forgetful. Charot. Okay. I'm forgetful. Science. Okay. Health. Safety. And music. Wow. Too long, right? Actually, it's very personal. Okay, but it's okay. Because I talked about English. And English is not here, right? Because I cannot stop really putting other contents inside my vlog. Because I don't want to be predictable. Things like that. Things like that. So, not predictable. To the point, sometimes I can vlog music, I can vlog science, I can vlog health, I can vlog any topic, things like that. Because reality, and some will not like, something like that. But guys, my purpose really is not like that to earn revenue. Okay. So, we need to choose now here. Oh, hindi makita, oy. Lakoy, nagbablog in fairness. Ay, sa feeling ko, nakita siya ng tuwan. Ito, tulilik din ako, ha? Sorry guys, I have to put down the microphone. Okay, guys. Okay. Oh, ganon. Lakoy. Liwag, sige, liwag, Jud. Oh, ganon. Sige, liwag. Ang kamot, Jud. Na makabugas. Sige. Sige, ano na lang, eh. Oh, ana. Oh, wow, diba? Okay. Wow! Who is specifically REST as tool? It will help you to troubleshoot any harm or any danger inside your room, outside your room, or even you walk to the street, hit the storage of various products, then it costs you to pay the products of the damages. That's also part of the risk. Or it can either be you will be hit by a car when you walk going to Lulu or something like that. Or whatever malls, that should also be considered, right? So the rest are not normally limited only to the plant, factory, company. The risks really are universal, or let us say generic. Okay, so it's everywhere. Okay, even though you will slice a lemon by a knife room, So you have the betadine, the Band-Aid, the alcohol. May I have here, you can help yourself. So I would like to ask, straight to the point, what do you understand by the rest? I'm stating the example. Push, Irish, whatever, Osha. Okay, probably, okay, to cause harm, the probability to cause harm, okay, the probability, because I don't prepare yet, sorry, the probability, okay, this is on the spot kasi, because I don't aim to vlog now, because I'm saying, okay, the probability of the hazards to cause harm, okay, cause harm, and its severity. Take note the preposition, not this preposition. This is third personal pronoun, right? Remember the pronoun, first pronoun, second type pronoun, and it's gonna be third personal pronoun. I think so. Okay. I'm not really that sure because I'm not majoring in English, but I'm pretty sure this is a pronoun of ownership when there is an apostrophe. Okay, like this. Okay, and we make this because we are putting subject and predicate. So it's not matching, then problem. Okay, and its severity. Okay, and its severity and injury. Severity of injury. Okay, of injury. Let's make it more details. And damage to, okay, that's not kasi, and damage to, okay, property, okay, let's say environment, okay, environment, right? Okay, or environment, the property, it talks about clearly, shall we say the equipment, the facilities, the machines, the machineries, the tools, or any properties that the company owns. This is general. Okay, including the facilities or amenities. Okay, so sometimes also in another book also they are saying only equipment directly, but actually equipment is a property. It's better to say property, right? Severity of injury and damage to property, environment, okay, like that. And then we have also, okay, the interruption, okay, the interruption or let us say the interruption or the quiet delay of the operation, okay, of operation. This is more of the process definition of the rest. And then loss of reputation, okay, ganon. Loss of reputation. This is talking about the image, the integrity, okay, and also the morale of the workers, the morale of the supervisors, foreman, like that, in a large perspective, reputation, company reputation and image, or things like that, right? I'm talking about, okay, so things like, also with two or three of this impact or consequence. That's a combination of all, things like that, okay? Or some, combination of, or combination of all and some, okay? It's gonna be like that. Okay, so again, I will read. Look at the board. Sorry for my penmanship. I will be at the back and I will read it for you. Risk is defined as hazardous exposure plus the impact. Okay, it's gonna be like that. If there's no exposure of hazards, then there will be no risk. Okay, and if there's no hazards involved, then there will be no risk also, right? Then, the definition of the risk in a detailed manner, the probability of the hazards to cause harm, and its severity of injury, okay? Or, I forgot to put the loss of life, okay? And damage to property or process. And then we have the loss of reputation, the morale, the integrity, the imaging. Okay, could it be the imaging, the reputation of the workers, staffs, and the company itself. And the combination of all and some, because there are also, let's say accidents happen, then there will be two of there are the impact, and also one of there is the impact only. So it depends on the situation, have also multiple impacts and consequences also, especially massive accidents, for example, riding in a car with 4 passengers and 5 people die. So that is massive, right? So, and at the same time also, the car is completely damaged. So there are two, right? Damage of property and also loss of life. That's what I'm telling you. And a combination of all and some, right? Okay, loss of life, I forgot. Injury is talking about temporary disability and permanent disability, or major injury or minor injury. So this is only general, the word injury. Okay, and the loss, nulit king screen, nakakaldao ka. Uy. O diba, nakakaldao ka. Nakalulit, good. Kung ba zoom in kayo, uy, in fairness. Charots. Kasi pwede nila eh. O diba? Kasi papasok naman ka lang akong hita. Nakakaon na ba ang tanan? Uy, mga untag bugnaw na binignit. Okay. So we go now to the, shall we say, the parts of risk assessment. Okay, and the elements of the risk assessment. Okay, then we go to the steps like that, and then we give example how to make. But the last one will be later because it will take a longer time. Okay, things like that. Because very important how to make. It's not just pure theory. You need to know how to make. Okay? You need to understand that really you should know how to make. It's not enough to definition like that. Okay? Theory na kutob. Okay, you should know how to make a risk assessment. Okay? Ganon. So we go to the 3 parts of RA. Let's aggregate that as RA. Okay? Meaning Republic Act. Sorry, this is risk assessment. Okay? So, number 1, we have the hazards. Okay? Hazards identification. Okay? Like hazard identification, nakakaloka. Okay, and then we have the hazards analysis. Okay. And then we have the risk. Okay, analysis, then / evaluation. Okay. Like that. Again, 3 parts of risk assessment will be the hazards identification, second, hazards analysis, third, risk analysis and evaluation. Really? So the hazards identification, meaning to say you observe what are the hazards there. Okay? And then you have to identify if it is physical hazards, chemical hazards. The hazards analysis is totally different. Okay? So you need to determine where these hazards will attack. To what particular person, to what, to equipment, to like that, to the property, to the materials, to the resources. Then you have to analyze, okay, where it will be exposed. Like that, to the environment, to the workplace, to the room, like that. So that's analysis already. After having the different kinds of hazards or example of hazards or whatever na inyong nakuan that you really identify, then you analyze further. You don't put evaluation here because we don't need to evaluate further the hazard. We need still to consider that to use in our risk evaluation. That's why we don't have to put evaluation under analysis here. But other sources also, number 3, risk evaluation, because it's understood that analysis is part of evaluation. It depends on the the styling of the sources you have. Like this only, the third part, risk evaluation, because it is understood that during your risk evaluation, you will analyze first so that you can come up with your evaluation. How can you evaluate if you did not analyze component to component, the risks associated with the hazards? right? But to make it safe, I will just put risk analysis and evaluation because others also book only putting analysis without also evaluation. Or other sources, di ba nakakaloka? Okay, get the point. So it differs on the style and the creativity of the author, how they presented their discussion in their published in their websites, things like that. Okay, that's why I'm not fan of one source only. I need to go to others. Okay, I need to realign their concept if it is matching. It's really we have four elements of risk assessment. Okay. Now I will tell you honestly, Sotero, why it will not come out in the examination? Things like this. Remember guys, this is objective. Oh no, this is subjective, sorry. This is not objective. Okay? Subjective meaning you can create a lot as long as you are, you are clever in English. You can do that. Types, kinds, classification, mga ganon ba? Category, what? Two kinds, three types, four types, classification, two categories, three components, three elements. So these are, only English. Okay? So that's why this kind of questions will not come out. Let's say, for example, in the English, we'll say, enumerate the three parts of resistance. This will not come out because this is subjective. Right? But what will come out will say, give an example of hazards, things like that, because that is objective. Okay? You need to say, you can enumerate a lot of hazards. Because here, you can substitute any terminology here. Okay? You want to say hazards identification. It can also be hazards recognition. Like that. It's also okay. Because once you identify, then you have to recognize. Right? How can you recognize if you will not identify? Okay? For example, I have a friend. I have to identify him or her so that I can recognize. So actually, you can put also here, supposedly, hazard identification and recognition. Okay, but it's just the same story, okay? So it's not, it's English only. Okay, four elements, risk assessment. We have, okay, here, hazards, okay, identification. Still the same, right? Common. Hazards identification. So just like math, we need to troubleshoot the most common denominator, least common denominator, greatest common factor, least common multiple, like that. Okay, in so a fraction, right? Improper fraction and proper fraction, right? In math. Okay, we have hazards. Okay, hazards. See, characterization. Another term will be introduced. Kaloka. Pag-English ng term. Characterization. Diba? Okay, then we have also here, exposure assessment. Okay. But this means hazards exposure assessment. Don't put exposure because understood, exposure is talking about the hazards. Right? So like that. That's why no put noun here before exposure. Okay. Number 4, we have the risk characterization. So in your memorization, it's easy, right? Because there's a word characterization. Okay, repeated twice. Okay, like that. And important for the elements, there's a term assessment. Okay, here, there's a term assessment. Oh, ganun pala siya. Okay, and then put in your brain cells, it all starts with identification. Okay, so that it's easy to remember. Okay, so what are the 3 parts of risk assessment? Hazards identification, hazards analysis, risk analysis / evaluation. 4 elements of risk assessment with hazards identification, hazards characterization, 3 exposure assessment, 4 risk characterization. Okay, things like that. So we need to discuss a little bit of this because, we could relate to some points of risk. Malabot siya mag-vlog guys. Okay, matakas mang okay? Okay, because I need to discuss talaga. Char. Okay, So in hazard identification, you need to observe what are the hazards you found. So you need to have the types of hazards in your brain cells. Types of hazards. You should memorize this if you are an OSH professional. Because this is very, very important. Okay? So it always comes out in the NIBUSH, IGZ examination, OSHA's lead auditor examination, or ISO 45001, Occupational Safety and Health Management System. Like that. You get the point? Huwag din siya mabalik-balik rin siya, guys. So number 1. So we have, the first one will be the, okay, safety hazards. Wow. Really, si Sotero, safety hazards? Nakakaloka naman. Okay. I will explain why. Okay, later na lang. Safety hazards. Number 2, okay, we have the chemical hazards. And then, / health hazard. They're related. Okay, health hazards. Then there's also a distinction. I will discuss the relation, and I will also discuss the little bit distinction between chemical and health hazards. Okay, but only small distinction. Distinction meaning difference. Okay, vocabulary. Distinction and difference is just the same in meaning. Okay, like that. Okay, number 3. What else? We have the physical hazards. Okay, physical. Number 4, we have the electrical. Okay. Number 5, we have the biological. Okay, like that. Get the point, mga palangga komunidad. So there are at least 6 or 7 or 8. It depends on the sources, ha? Sometimes 7, sometimes 8, like it. Okay. Get the point, mga palangga komunidad. Number 7, we have the biological hazards. We have the psychological hazards. Psychological hazards. Okay. Get the point, mga palangga kung hitad. Ganan. So, number 7. What is the last for you? Because I slash the chemical and the health. So, the other sources also make it separate. Okay, so it will become also 8 directly or 7 directly, things like that. Okay, so you get the point. But since if it is enumeration, then as long as you write it, it's correct, right? Get the point. It depends on if it is really have there, then it's correct. Things like that. Okay, so number 8, number 7 pata. Okay, what are the other hazards? Okay, so we have now the safety hazards, chemical or health hazards, physical hazards, electrical hazards, biological hazards, psychological hazards. Do we put mechanical hazards or not? Let me ask you a question. Can we put mechanical hazards? Okay, or not? So, you get the point. Or I can put also radioactive, like that. Radioactive hazards, let's say mechanical hazards, okay, like that. Can I put or not? Okay, but before that, we go directly to environmental hazards. Is the last, number 7. Environmental hazards. You take note that environmental hazards is very important because the effect is massive. Okay, not to a single person. So if the environment is, if the hazards are massive, then a lot will die. Okay, but compared to the individualistic type of hazard, only one will injure, only one will die. So for example, the one who climbed, it's only the one who will injure. But take note, environmental hazards are very important because it is massive. You know, a lot will die, thousands, millions, hundreds if there are, the hazards are very critical or risky. So you have to play with these environmental hazards, huh? But usually the government will have this task because this is more on the national scale, environmental hazards, okay? But still we need to assess also every time. And it's part really of risk assessment to deal with the effect to the environment. Because if we mean of the environment, we need we mean that literally as the workplace. Okay? Workplace, work site. So this is under environment. Environment is very general. Okay, these are component work site like that. And if you go to the indoor, that is also your workplace. That is also part of the environment. Anything that you work with is a part of the environment. So you get the point. So that's why you put only environmental hazards here. Okay, now where can we put radioactive hazards? And it's obviously in chemical hazards. Here. Okay. For example, irritant, toxic, like that, okay, or reactive, things like that are chemical hazards. Okay, so mechanical hazards, where does it go? So you don't have to separate mechanical hazards. So most of the time, mechanical hazards are under safety hazards. Okay, like is the equipment, there's no guarding machine, it's part of safety hazards in the workplace. In fact, safety hazard also involves slip, trip, and fall, things like that. Okay, you get the point. It can also include the ergonomic, but sometimes ergonomic can be steal by the health hazard. Things like that, there's you don't have to really memorize. Sometimes there's a link between the two where you put, but just go to the general, so that pasok sa banga. You get the point? So things like that. Because ergonomics is talking on the musculoskeletal disorder, right? That is part of your health. That's why usually it will be put in the health hazard. But sometimes also other sources, based on my experience, they will put also in safety hazards. Because the safety measures of ergonomic hazards are more on, configuration of the workplace, like that it could be comfortable and convenient for the workers to work. So it's gonna be like the physical, layout of the workplace. That's why they put in the safety hazard. Okay, the measure. The workplace is not ergonomically designed. That's what it means there. The space is limited, too much obstruction, they cannot move, and then they will bombard with each other, they will be physically contacting with each other, then there's no comfortability in their work layout, okay, or the configuration of the place. So it's gonna be under safety hazard. And it's also under health because it talks about the bone, the musculoskeletal disorder. Okay, dislocation of your cartilages, your the joint, things like that. And then for example the HAVS, the hand-on vibration syndrome, things like that. Okay, or the carpal tunnel syndrome in your palm. Okay, like that because of holding too much vibrating. Let's say a grinding machine. If you keep that holding for 1 hour, things like that, then your hand also will be vibrating. And there's like dagong needle. There's like a needle that will push your palm. So that's a carpal tunnel syndrome. Okay, in your hand. So the halves is your entire arm. Okay, it will vibrate and it will like that, and you feel something pain like that. Okay, and then fatigue like that. Get the point? Things like that. So muna siya kasagal sa mga nibush, mga carpal tunnel syndrome, gano'n. Okay, then enumerate the musculoskeletal disorder, things like that. Okay, so that's under health hazards. For me, that's health hazard lang. But some putting that in safety hazard. Okay. Safety hazards alam guys, mga access, storage, lighting. See, it will also confuse with the electrical, right? The lighting and the illumination. Then why electrical will not steal that hazard? Okay, because electrical more on the tools, device on the equipment, except for illumination. Okay, illumination and the lighting of the workplace is part of general safety hazard. But if it talks about how the device are being laid out, like that, or the routing, the management of the cable, things like that, it should be underground supposedly, rather than hanging the top, things like that. That's electrical hazards. Right, there's a similarity also. But to make sure, you can also include, it depends on you. Just explain there. Okay, it doesn't matter if you are, if you have the reasoning. You get the point? So again, what are the types of hazards? So that we have the hazards identification. We have the safety hazards, chemical or health hazards, physical hazards, electrical hazards, biological hazards, psychological hazards, and environmental hazards. Environmental hazards are very straightforward. That is contributing pollution to air, okay, water, and land. In land, more on contamination. Land or soil contamination or soil and land degradation to the environment. But for the air, that's normally referring to airborne contaminants, hazardous air pollutants, things like that, that could have the effect on the weather and the climate change. Things like that, especially the greenhouse gases, the carbon dioxide. That's more on environmental hazards. Okay? So that's what I told you. The controls are wide scale. Meaning to say, usually the one will control the government, the state, if we are talking about the total environment. Okay? More on the public scale. Okay? Or national scale. Okay? But also, of course, we need to be extra careful with our own environment also, right? In our workplace, of course. Okay, then we have the physical hazards. These physical hazards are more the coverage of the, sorry, I applied this before, industrial hygienist. Okay, so the industrial hygienist will normally have the measurement of these physical hazards. It talks about the temperature, pressure, like that, the heat, the noise, vibration, like that. Okay, so they were really measuring this, the radiation. But actually radiation also is related to chemical hazards, right? Things like that, there are relation. Okay? So, muna silang mag-measure. Okay, and sometimes also this industrial hygienist would relate also the environmental hazard. Because this pressure, temperature is also the condition and the parameter of the environment. Get the point? So sometimes you know how to draw the line in your understanding. You don't need to be literal or word for word. You know how to where to place like that. You got the point? So that's why I'm not encouraging you to memorize literally or plain memorization. You have to understand really. You got the point? Ganon. Okay, temperature, pressure, vibration, noise, heat. So things like this will be under physical hazards. Okay, the coldness, the hotness, very hot. The people cannot work there. So we don't have brackets very hot. So that's under physical hazards and related to environmental hazards, of course. Okay, so things like that. So example na siya sa physical. Okay, sa chemical hazards, okay, so chemical, related na siya sa health hazard closer. So chemical hazards, we're referring na itong mga gas, smoke, dust, fumes, like this, okay? Particulates, aerosols, mists, like that. Okay, mist, smaller suspended particles in air, that's mists, M-I-S-T. Okay, like that. Because the fog would be considered under environment hazards. Fog, F-U-G. It can cause, blocking the visual of the drivers. That's environmental hazards. But since fog also related to chemical, because it's more on the process in which it will create the vague environment due to the changes in the liquid to gas, gas to liquid, like that. Okay? So, related na kung gamay, but under din na siya sa environmental, ha? The point, sa chemical hazards, only gas, okay, put in your brain cells, gas, smoke, fume, like that, okay? What's this? Mists, aerosols, particulates, okay, like that, and contaminants. Whatever contaminants, liquid contaminants, okay, or let's say solid contaminants or air contaminants. Could it be airborne or not airborne? Okay. What do you mean by airborne? It will be flow by the of the wind, it will be carried. That's why airborne. But if it will carry also by the liquid, that is liquid burn. English naman wala siya, guys. Okay, but it's carried by the air or the wind. That is airborne contaminants. So all contaminants that will not be carried by the air, so that's not airborne. You get the things like that. The opposite of airborne. You get the point. So things like that. Okay, safety hazards. Sleep, trip, fall hazards. Storage hazard, whether it is higher, lower, like that, a chance of falling or collapsing with the materials from the top. Storage, including the lighting and the illumination, is part in the safety hazards, including also the safety of the machine and the equipment. Okay, if it is having a guarding machine and you have to put engineering controls for there, and the safety devices of your machine so that it will stop immediately. Like that, it will give warning, the color red, whatever. That's also safety hazards. That's why I did not put separately the mechanical hazards, because that's part of safety hazards. That's why also I not put radioactive hazards, because that's part also of, health hazard. Health hazards, by the way, we have radioactive, okay, toxic, irritant, mutagenic, carcinogenic, things like that. Okay, what else? Pathogenic substance, okay? And then the last will be poisonous. You get the point? Once it is toxic, poisonous is separately, because poisonous is another thing. It talks about the food contamination, okay? Due to the bacteria. Nakakaloka. Okay, nakakaloka. Ganon. So, muna siya sa health hazard. Sa'yo, mag-ibig ka sa chemical or health hazard? No. Okay? But i-focus lang din nyo ang chemical, wala pa siya nisbot kung pangkalawasan. Chemical hazard. Ang health hazard, klaro kayo na mga radioactive. Sudit-sudit din sa mga vital organs. Okay? Mutagenic, carcinogenic, like that. Okay? Carcinogens, pathogenic, poisonous, like that. Okay? And then, sir, where does this flammability as a hazard involved? Okay, because that is not also health. Okay? And then that is not also covered by the chemical, because the chemical is always like this. So you can attach the flammability hazards to safety hazards. Okay, but because that is usual hazards you will find on site, that's under safety hazards. Okay, the combustibility of the materials, the ability of the materials to be combusted easily or burned immediately. That's a combustibility definition. The ability of the materials to be burned easily and quickly. That is combustibility. Okay, or combustible. Okay, then flammability, the ability of the materials to ignite spontaneously in the presence of ignition source. So that's flammability. Okay, so that's under safety hazards. Sabot na tawag safety hazards, chemical hazards, electrical hazards, I told you already also. Biological hazards are very special. It's taken for granted. It's more on the snake, should we say reptilia, amphibia, like that, if you remember your biology. So because most of the times these are not found in the process, right? Maybe if your factory is near the river, so your assessment will assess more on the wild, what do you call this one? Wilderness or forest hazards. If very near to the sea, river, like that. Okay, so you need to assess biological, like mga snakes, ganon, mga worm, parasites, like that, fungi, bacteria, virus. But biological is very important for our health protection. Do not disregard this one because a lot die for this. Okay? A lot of people die because of biological hazards. Though it doesn't sound obvious in the process, in the factory. But it is more important. It will kill a person than this. Because others can only accumulate for how many years, how many months, but biological, if virus, oh my gosh, nakakaloka. Okay, you got the point, so be careful. Don't take for granted the biological hazard. Okay? So, biological hazards includes mga cockroach, like that, okay? Termites, under also biological hazards. And then you will say, so Sotero, how about the pesticides, insecticides, like that? What kind of hazards are there? Okay, pesticides are part of biological hazards, insecticides, okay? Because what they are trying to kill are also animals, pests, organism, microorganism. That's why it's under biological hazard. But sometimes it linked to chemical hazard because pesticides and insecticides are made of chemicals, right? So sometimes, di ba? So you have to think also. Okay, go to the most basic example for this in the books. Muna na siya ang mga answer yun. Okay, but the later na so pasok niyo sa asa na niya. Basta ang katudyong di pang example dito sa mga kuan ba? Katudyong na dito mo dito yung unahon. Di ba? Get the point? Yan ba nasag ka? So Sotero, what is the slag? The slag of the metallic particles during welding. Slag. So it looks like chemical, right? So we're gonna say, what about metallic hazard? Here. If you try to do word for word, there's no metallic hazard as a type of hazard. So where you put that? Okay, you will put that in the safety hazards because it's normal hazards produced by the welding process. Things like that in the certain work site or workplace. So anything that is common and you can see immediately, like that is under safety hazard, except for the chemical hazard, dusts. Like that, such like example, the cement industry always producing dusts. So except to that is chemical hazard. Okay, you get the point. Mga particulates, particulates, dirt. Yes, ganun. Psychological hazard, mga palala, that is more on the mental state of mind. So don't also take for granted because this can kill a person. If you lose your focus and concentration because you have problems in relationship, problems on money, finances, then you will lose also your ability to concentrate. And that is psychological hazard. So you have to take care of your mental health. That you know how to draw the line, what is work and what is personal. You get the point? We need to distinguish personal. Work is work. So you need to forget your personal problems when you are in the work. As easy as that. Okay? And also in reverse, if you're in the room, so forget also the job related problems there. Things that you know how to draw the line. Things like that, okay? So if this is kasi mabuang man ka kung tanan yun, nauna lang yung butanan in one setting, you get the point? Things like that. Okay? So mental health, psychological, for example, you have a lot of credit cards and you cannot pay that, and then you are working very hard, and your money is just like wasting or losing every time. Okay, because it's not enough, and then you have to overtime a lot. So that's also psychological hazard, and by then you are not concentrating anymore your job. You get the point? So don't take for granted the psychological hazard because it can cause fatality. Okay, it can kill a person by quick second if you lose your concentration and focus. Really, okay, if you're walking and then you sleep, immediately you will fall to the lower ground. Okay, then you have to watch carefully the platform every time you walk. Things like that. These things are cannot be told, but so you have to analyze always, like around you, at the top, at the bottom, at the side, left, right, back, front, and hear the sound. Okay, sound. Because sometimes also sound will be quick, like that, just like a lighting if you walk on the road due to overspeeding vehicles on the main road. Sometimes you cannot look at the back and you're like that. So but then you will be also sideswiped by the car. Sometimes you have to listen also the sound that's coming. Actually, this is natural phenomenon. You can feel that. Nobody will teach you, but I'm just reminding. Okay? So you need to use your common senses. Like that. The sense of hearing, the sense of touch, the sense of seeing, okay, visualization, like that, okay? And about some common senses, right? Like that. So when you walk, you have to look at the top. Maybe somebody will fall there, like equipment, and it will hit your head. So things like that. So these things cannot be taught, right? But it should be reminded. You get the point? Okay. So muna na siya. I discussed a lot of hazards identification because you will use that in your risk assessment. Okay, so you have hazards analysis after your hazards identification. And that's the time you will proceed your assessment sa rest na data. Ganon. Okay, any questions so far mga palangga kong hitad? I need to go first to this discussion because this is very, very basic in OSH profession. You should understand the rest and, hazards all the time. Okay? Okay. Yan po yung gahi na niya. Okay. So now we go to the steps of how to make a risk assessment. Okay. Steps. Actually, this risk assessment is collaboration between the performing party, the people that will do the work, or the departmental-wise team, and then they will sit together in a conference room to make this. But the problem is, these people also have no enough knowledge like that compared to the OSH team. That's why we have to rely more on the OSH team like that. But the procedure really is, collaboration. Meaning to say team work, actually. If you need to make a risk assessment that is task specific, for example, I am a chemical engineer. I don't have knowledge how to work mechanically. I have the general, but not specific one by one. 1, 2, 3, 4. I cannot operate the lathe machine. Don't you think I can operate the lathe machine? No, I cannot. Unless I will study how to operate the lathe machine. So things like that, you do the assessment of the lathe machine. Could you expect me to really clever in making the hazard risk assessment for that machine? No, I need the labor, I have to interview him. Or the supervisor, I have to interview him. What's the method for this? What's the purpose of this? Step 1, step 2, step 3, ganon. Right? So, that's why there's a difficulty also to the part of OSH professional. But if you are referring only to the generic risk assessment, there's no problem. Generic, because all equipment that the same purpose with the lathe machine will have the same hazards, more or less similarities. So there's no problem anymore. Okay, but if you make task-specific risk assessment or site-specific risk assessment, it needs collaboration, partnership, and teamwork to do that. You get the point? Things like that. Alangan man. Okay? So magwa to risk assessment, the cable pulling. And then, makakaluka. I need the presence of electrical foreman, electrical supervisor to be with me or to ask them questions, things like that, right? You get the point? Though I can make it also, I will research on Google, but it's not enough. Okay? It's not enough really. Okay? By Google or to ask actual confession of the real situation on the plant, things like that. Okay? Get the point. So that my risk assessment will be turned out to be realistic, not highly theoretical and bookish. Get the point. Though it has the same but it's totally the same. But if you put not already applicable, then the people will, there's no like this in our side. Oh my gosh, because the resources are only plainly coming from the Google, which is no longer applicable in the real scenario on the side. And you have to be extra careful also. Okay, you get the point. So things like that. You need to be consistent. Okay? So, dili mo ipasok tanan ha. Okay, you get the point if that is not applicable already. Get the point? Ganon. Nakakaloka. Okay, di ba mga palangga? Di ba ganon? So guys, hindi mapapas ko eh. Dahil hindi mapapas ang ink blue. Charot! O, di ba? Okay, guys. So, mag-drawing na ka. O, steps sa kaun. Di ba? Then if I will say to you now, what is the difference between the job hazards analysis and the risk assessment? How can you draw the line between the distinction or the difference between the two. These are all accident prevention program, reactive approach, eliminating or reducing the chance of accidents and incidents in the workplaces. Okay? Again, accident prevention program or tool. Okay? So reactive, part of reactive monitoring. Oh no, proactive, sorry. Proactive monitoring. Okay? I almost failed to remember my brain cells. Okay? Proactive monitoring, not reactive monitoring. Okay? Things like that. Oh, di ba pwede na? Tumagay ko, ito ko do in fairness, chats. Okay. Now, what are the steps? Actually, there's this, no, somebody will only 5, somebody also will say 6, somebody also will say 7, so subjective again. Okay, but if the examination in the future, let's say international certification examination related to safety, then if there's a lot asked, give 7 steps like that, then you remember only 4, then you can create your own, styling during your answer. You get the point? Then you need to break chuba chucho. Because you memorize only the direct steps. So you go to the details so that you can break, you can break, so that it will become 7 like that. And then ensure that the main points will be there while doing that. Because the main points are very, very important. You get the point? So what I'm trying to emphasize, because you only understand 5 steps, but the question needs 7 steps. You are still having 2 missing. So you lose the 2 points, things like that, okay? So you need to be articulate. You get the point in the, muna siya English na yun, no matter. Okay, you go to the details like that. Step 1, step 2, step 3, I will break this one. Like that. Okay? And alam ko na mo sa actual. Charot. Okay. Then make your answers neat, clean, and then so that they will be enjoying checking your paper and then make it good penmanship, because these are people who check. People, not computer. Okay, so there's a chance of giving good points if they say, oh my gosh, very good. So, because people will check have emotion. If you have computer who will check, computer that don't have emotion. Get the point? They will never consider. That's highly patterned. Wrong. Check. But if the people will check, there's a consideration, especially how you phrase the sentence, like that, beautiful grammar. Things like that matters also, right? If you make the penmanship good, like that, really, this guy is something like that. Okay, so they will give another point, things like that. Just like an essay writing, things like that. Okay, you got the point, mga palabang komunidad. Ganon. So you make your answers neat, clean, and make your writings very good in appearance or appealing. Okay. So I'm not forcing you to make your penmanship to be good. Just make it clean, because the people have not the same. Some have good, some are not having penmanship. So this is not an issue, but make it clean. Things like that. Okay, tingin ba kuching okay ba? Diba? So if you see the answer, wow, like this, complete subject and predicate, like that, and the prepositions are there, because they are UK council. Okay, so they are not really direct to the point grammar. They need also to check spelling, like that, okay, or the right way of phrasing the sentence. If you put conjunction, preposition, things like that. So this will be a big minus to them, because it's international. You get the point? This is not a locality examination only. There's a lot of consideration. If you try to direct the grammar, it will be okay, like that. It's not. It's international, right? Get the point? UK Council, or could it be America? So how can you convince them that, sir, that's direct, it's okay? Then it will be a turn off to them when they check the papers. Assuming that the main points are already there, aside from that. So they need to check everything. Ganon. Okay? You get the point? But secondary lang, it's secondary, but it's very different if, whole package should be good. Okay, comprehensive answers with correct grammar. Okay, ganon. So, just like me, in my IGC, I don't study the last part. Okay, then I make my own answers na lang talaga siya because I don't have time to study. Okay? Then, I still pass in that particular, because I make it, that's what I'm telling you now, the technique. Okay? So, things like that, okay? The point. But not all the time, but the English is an advantage. It depends still the points talaga. On your main points, how you really, answer it in a manner of, what do you call this one? Impressive answer. But maintaining the point, of course. Because there's also answers that are lengthy, but the point is very weak. It's not there. It's totally different. You get the point? But if the main points are there and then the way it is being phrased grammatically correct, then that would be good. What if too much good grammar but the main points are not there? So that's also another story. Get the point? Ganon. Okay, for the rest of this math, how can we do this? Challenge. So, me guys, before, okay, since this is now a stock knowledge, okay, so I have, so that I can remember easily, because so many times I did not prepare. This is on the spot. Okay, so I need to remember the distinction between the job hazards analysis and the risk assessment, so that I can remember the steps of the risk assessment. See, things like this, because I did not plainly memorize. Okay, like that. So, in order I can have the steps well in RA, I need to remember the GHA. Things like that. Okay, though I can make also, but maybe it will take a little bit longer time. And this is vlog. Maybe they will say, oh, you are a safety professional, you cannot do it. No, this is on the spot kasi. I'll get the point. Like that. So RA here and GHA here. Like that. Okay? The same purpose, huh? Accident prevention program or tool. Okay. May nasab mo ang tool, kuan ka ng mga spanner. So I use the word tool, not literal in effect, ha? Okay? Because there are words in English that to be used as a term that is not literal in understanding. Accident prevention tool. So mingon mo na, mga spanner na hindi tool. So it's not like that, ha? Okay, you got the point. Up to funny, right? Risk assessment. Okay? Here also GHA, acronyming. You master yourself in acronyming, okay? So they can easy to remember, or it's really easy to enumerate and outline your answers if you master in acronyming or acronym. Get the point? Things like that. Okay, let's say mark 7 na ito kabuok. So what I remember about GHA is only SBD, SIBD, like that. Napasa kong braces. SIBD, okay? Or let's see, SBID. Okay, this is the acronym of the GHA. But I forgot the risk assessment. Okay? So based on how understanding karon, ano na siya? Number one of the risk assessments is to identify the potential hazard. Okay, identify potential hazards. Why potential? What is the definition of potential? You need to explain this. Because a lot of safety officers don't know the word adjective potential. You get the point? They all go directly to the hazards term. Yes, it's okay. Because we don't need to be good in English all the time, right? But at least we need to know what is really the meaning of potential. Get the point? So, things like this. What is potential? Okay? Meaning the chance of. Okay? The possibility of. Okay, like this. Or the probability of. Okay? So, meaning identify the chance of hazards to occur. Identify to happen. Identify the potential or the probability of the hazards to exist. So I use different noun, right? Exist, occur, and happen. Again, these three words have the same meaning. So, synonyms. Exist, happen, occur. Like that. Here, chance of, possibility of, and probability of. So this is the same with the word potential. So we have to say, it is not yet the recognized hazards or the obvious hazards you see. So we have to say, it is just really the totality that has the possibility to, you can see, to occur, like that. Okay? So if I will change this to something like this, identify the hazards, it's okay. It could be recognized, it could be not seen yet. So because hazards are general. But I said, identify the potential hazards and that has the chance of occurring later. Okay, like that. But this is not the hazards present already. You got the point? Things like, because if this is the hazard present already, then you have to intervene the hazard. You need to correct on the spot. So then why you delay the hazard? You see that already? Right? So things like that, you should use your brain cells, okay? If that is recognized and obvious, then you see that in your eyes, then why you stay that longer there? So it will cause injury to your people. So things like that, you don't have to be, to be taught all the time. So be responsible enough to your people, okay? Because your task is to protect them. Okay, that's part of your inherent responsibility as the team leader of the group. Okay, that you need to protect them, whatever happens, things like that. Oh, wow, whatever happens, right? Okay, so muna siya ang diferensya sa potential. Okay, like that. So meaning, recognized hazards, obvious hazards, meaning you see it already, you feel it already, you hear it already. But potential, it doesn't mean that you see already. So you need to forecast. Okay, you need to foresee what's happening later after 2 hours, 15 minutes, or tomorrow, things like that, or in the future, things like that, okay? So that's potential hazard. That has the real possibility to occur. Okay? So muna na siya ang mga impact, likelihood, or likelihood ay siya. Okay? The probability of man's likelihood. Right? That's the point. So identify, later we will discuss that also. Identify potential hazards. Okay? So that's why most of the books put really potential. Okay? Because, of course, because the obvious hazards can be seen, normally they will eliminate. So what will try to kill us are the hazards that does not exist yet. And then later it will exist, then it can kill. It can cause us injury. That's why the books are telling really, identify the potential hazards. There's always an adjective potential prior to the term hazard. Okay. Now in the GHA, we have SBID. I memorized this already. So, select, okay, select the type of job. Select the type of job to be analyzed. Okay, to be analyzed. For example, if you try to analyze the type of job, for example, acetylene welding operation, or let's say you will consider the arc welding operation, or the small operation. Okay, like that. Okay, so you need to select. Okay, out of the general. The general is welding. Then next to select the type, meaning if it is a small, if it is arc, if it is electrical welding, if it is just gas welding, right? Things like that. Or if another also, let's say another job, there's a lot, right? Or let's say handling of hazardous substances. You need to determine also the type of job. You be doing the transporting of chemicals. Okay, transporting, storage, handling, disposing, like that. You get the point. Okay, so that's type of the job. Number 2 is a risk assessment. Okay, in the risk assessment, guys, you have to be particular to the target of person whom to be harmed. Sorry, there's also a grammar for whom and who. When to use the whom and who, English. Whom and who, where to use that in a statement. Kasi maglibog ta, di ba? Whom and who. Okay? So, where to use the whom and who. W-H-O-M and W-H-O in a sentence. Okay? Whom to be, identify the potential hazards. So, identify the persons whom to be harmed. That is the grammar. Whom, not who. Okay, because let's say, identify the hazards who to be harmed. So it looks like not good to listen, right? So that's wrong grammar. It's whom. W-H-O-M. So whom more on the ownership. But who, it's still, you don't know yet who is the recipient for that particular hazard. So that's the difference of whom and who. Like that, okay? You get the point? Things like that, okay? And then usually also the who starts from the first of questioning. You will never put who in the middle of the sentence and the last of the sentence in English. You will never say that, but whom, you can put it in the middle, somewhere like that, before the end. But you will never say also, you will never put also in the first letter of the sentence of questioning the whom. It's always who. So that's the difference. Who is the owner for this? You will never say, whom is the owner for this? It's wrong grammar. That's the point. So you need to know the difference where to apply between whom and who. This is number 2 step in the assessment. Okay. Sorry guys, I will also teach English somewhere along the way. Okay, sorry talaga. Okay, you got the point. Ganon. You got the point? Oh, para total package. You got the point. Okay. So step 1 in risk assessment, identify there's a the here, the potential hazard. Okay. And then number 2, find out. You need to find out because you don't know yet, right? Find out. Okay, who? This is who already because I use can. Okay, who can be harmed? Okay, because the sentence I used before is not the same like this. That's why I use whom. Okay, so here find out who can be harmed. For example, if it is a laborer, or let's say a technician, an inspector, foreman, supervisor, manager, cleaner, housekeeper, bartender, like that. These are the different persons that you need to find out who among them can be harmed with that particular potential hazard that will arrive later on. That's the point. So that is number 2. Find out who can be harmed. Ganon. Diba? Okay? So, ganun siya ang number 2. So, sa GHA, ang number 2 is, okay, break down the steps or the job steps. Okay. If you have the type of the job to be analyzed, then break down the job steps. Okay, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, step 6, like that. But take note, here in your job hazard analysis, you are not concentrated with the recipient who will receive the hazards. Unlike the risk assessment, it's very clear that we need to find out the persons involved. That they might be suffered by those hazards later on. Things like that, right? Okay, number 3, job hazard analysis. We have, okay, so see, here, identify the potential hazard. It turned out to be step number 3 in GHA. There's a difference, right? Identify the potential hazards. I need to discuss this. Maybe you are making a risk assessment that is a job hazard analysis. Because you are not starting with the step 1 here. So this is why we need to draw the line. How to make it. Okay? Like, ito mabuti ka ikaw. Okay, you got the point. So identify the potential hazards. Okay. Then here, in your risk assessment, that is the time we have to assess the risks. Or assess the associated risks to make it vonga. Assess the associated risks. Okay. Associated risks. Okay. In each potential hazard that you discover, so assess the associated risk. Okay. Like that. Or assess the risk. Okay. Okay. It's just the same. Assess the associated risk, assess the risk, it's just the same. It doesn't matter. Okay, here, identify the potential hazards. The last here is only 4 steps, right? So develop your control measure. Okay, develop your control measure. Now, this is English also. Okay, control measure. Okay, so develop your control measure. So you can substitute that also to develop your risk control. Okay? So not really that word for word. Or you can also say develop your preventive measure. Or you can also say develop your intervention measure of stopping the hazard. Okay? Or develop your corrective measure. So there's a lot of adjective you will use prior to measure. As long as they have the same purpose and application to the declaration of your action verb. Okay? So develop your preventive measure. Okay? Develop your control measure. Develop your intervention measure. Develop your corrective measure. Okay, or pwede rin, develop your recommended measure. That would mean recommendation. You just can say that develop your recommendations or develop your recommended measures. Okay, so the key term to understand is measure. Okay, you get the point? And the measure here is literally your solution. Okay, your solution to help minimize the hazards encountered in the workplace, because we cannot totally eliminate the hazards by natural understanding. By natural circumstance. Sorry. Okay, you get the point. So this is the solution. Okay, you get the point. Anak siya. Sometimes also we need to use also sometimes a decorative word. Develop your mitigating controls. Oh, there's also a word mitigating. So like this. To mitigate, meaning to reduce. Okay. To reduce, to minimize, to dwindle, to curtail. C-U-R-T, like this. Get the point? Or to diminish. So these have the same meaning. Reduce, minimize, mitigate, dwindle. Okay, like that. So these are all reducing or to curtail, things like that. Or sometimes you need to say to cut off, like that. Okay. So imo nang mudadua ra ka, just like playing games in the vocabularies. Okay, as long as they have the same meaning. So somewhere along the way, you can create a sentence and you will enjoy that. Okay, get the point. So number 3, assess the risk. Number 4, after the assessing the risk. Okay, in risk assessment. Okay, so find out na who can be harmed. Okay, so you assess the risks. Okay, you get the point. After assessing the risk, what is your next step? Okay, you need to record. Okay, record your risk assessment findings. Okay, risk assessment findings. Ganon. Okay, so after recording your risk assessment findings, because these are findings, meaning this needs solution. Right? So the last will be develop. Parihag this ha? GHA the same. Develop your control measure. Okay. develop your control measure. But here in the risk assessment, you can also play around with the terminologies. You can have now, develop your risk controls. So sometimes it will be changed, but it's the same meaning, guys. Okay? This is just only trap. You know, trap. Risk controls and control measures are just the same. Okay? Develop your risk controls. Ganon. Okay? So others, risk preventive controls, but it's just totally the same. Okay, you got the point. So 5 steps, right, in RA and 4 steps in GHA. Ganon. So it looks like the GHA, it looks like we need to know the job. Right, see? Select the type of job to be analyzed. That's why it's safe to make the risk assessment rather than the job hazard analysis. Because the job hazard analysis, it should be the responsibility of the department because they know the job well compared to the safety professional. Okay? Then they also have less knowledge what are the hazards involved in it. Like that. Then they have to research. Then they can come up with a JHA. Okay? Or if they have experience how to do it, and then bingo, they can do it. Right? But what I'm trying to emphasize, RA is more really the good one rather than the JHA. The point? Okay, because there's a target when this impact of the hazards to solve things like that. Okay, so here nothing, right? See, diba? Okay, later on kasi find out who can be harmed. Later on, who can be harmed. Sometimes also find out what can be harmed. Like these are the property, environment, equipment. So this is only the patikim part, but actually when you say find out who can be harmed, sometimes so find out what can be harmed after who. This is not also literal in effect in number 2. Okay? Find out who can be man. So it could also be find out what can be harmed. It could be the resources, materials, property, the equipment, the facility, like that. Okay? So it cannot cause property damage. Things like that. There will be a great loss. Okay, for that. Things like that. Okay? So, anak siya. Okay? So, number 3, assess the association. You should assess. So, how can we assess this? In your assessment, we need to know the likelihood and the severity or the impact. How severe is that? Things like how likelihood is that? It will be it will be continuous like that, or it will be minimal. That's things like that in this 3. This is crucial part. Because if you take for granted that it is or insignificant or rare, then burden that is really major. Okay, you need to use your brain cells here in number 3. You need to use all your brain cells. But what I'm trying to emphasize, you need to think more critically here in number 3 during the assessment of your risk. You get the point? Because after the assessment, okay, later on, your analysis will be there. Okay, your analysis will be running with the 3 and 4. In between 3 and 4. Because you have the risk assessment findings, right? You have the findings already. Okay, record your risk assessment findings. So it's between 3 and 4 you have the analysis. Okay, and then it's the number 5 that you have your evaluation. Risk evaluation sa last. Because you have developed already your risk controls. And how can you evaluate if you will never develop the controls? Okay. You get the point? Because when we made of analysis, that more on the component to component analysis each. Okay, that's analysis, right? You are not yet evaluating. You get the point? So evaluation is really the last one. Okay, you get the point. So let us say analysis is part of evaluation, but it can never be evaluation part of the analysis. Get the point? Okay, and ako kay evaluation, mag-analyze pa din ka. You get the point? So it's gonna be no sense at all. You get the point? Anak siya. Okay? So these are the differentiation between risk assessment and the job hazards analysis. Okay. Mabalik-balik naman siya, guys. If you are really now a safety professional, then you can have that in your brain cells already or in your neurons. Okay? Like that. Hindi ka pwede magsibasa-basa anik eh. Kung naman, patik naman sa inyong brain cells. With the point. So, ato pa sa katong mga drawing. Sa assessment of the session, it's also there that you will use the rest matrix. Okay? Could it be high, medium, low? Here in the step 3. You will use rest matrix. Okay, here. Okay? Ganon. Okay? Hindi the point mga palang kakumitad. Anak siya. Then later on, I will be having the English examination vlog. Okay? Isigit rin ako ang safety. Igibingaw ko. Char! Okay? Okay, mga palang kakumitad. Ngayon, kapapasok do. Kalukang isa kita kung ano eh. It requires too much applied force. Kaloka. Diba? Ang red, doon yung mapapas ang red. Uy, kaluka man guys. Uy. Ano gani? Uy, char! Sige, ako nila na ako. Char! But before that, we have to stop this vlog. We go directly to the risk matrix explanation. Okay. Risk matrix, that will be your guide to really determine, you know, the risk ranking. Okay, if it is really severe or not, like that. Would it be acceptable? Or it is major, like that, and you need to do a lot of additional precautionary measures. Okay, so that, you know, you can reduce the risks. Like that. Okay? So things like that. Oh my gosh, it's so hard. Too much force. Kaloka. Force is equals to mass times acceleration due to gravity. Wow. Force is equals to mass times acceleration in the second law of Isaac Newton. Wow. Kaloka. Force is a push or pull of an object. That's an elementary definition of force, right? Push or pull of an object. So I remember that in elementary. So what is a force? Class, force is a push or pull to the object. Wala siya. Push or pull, right? Good? Okay, binata ko na lang itong definition na sa bata sa salita, di ba? Ganon. Okay. Uy, huwag ko yung kayo do. Char. Sige mo naman na. Char. Okay. Now, we need to discuss the severity, the impact, okay, and the risk ranking. Things like that, okay? Or should we say the risk rating, right? I mean, correct risk rating. Yes, I think so. Because when we mean of ranking, then you have to rate. Okay? Things like that, right? Honor student, top 1, top 2, top 3. You have to rank. Then you will consider the rating, the grade. So I think it's gonna be tantamount to each other, right? Risk rating or risk ranking. How can you rank if you don't rate? Wow. Right? Oh, ganun siya. Okay, saan ito mga kuan? So, I remember this very long time ago in the bush, basic occupational safety and health. Okay. Like that. Okay, so I have here for example. So let's enumerate first without drawing. Okay. Guys, in this discussion, you will be shocked because there's a lot of sources use different terminologies that understand the sequencing, huh? That it should start with a low, then batting average, then a little bit high, and then too much high, and then catastrophe or catastrophe or fatality or death, something like that. Okay, but because they are exchanging the words, really you will be shocked the terminology. But just consider the degree and the leveling so that you, diba? That's what I mean. Okay? It's not word for word, okay? Get the point? Because there's a lot of the same in English nun taga. Kaloka. Okay, we have here the square. Okay, hanaw na ako. So, severity. Severity. Okay? And then we have here the likelihood. Okay, likelihood. Okay? Likelihood is just saying the how often it happened. Okay? Let's do a little bit of English first. How often it happens. Okay? This is question number 1. How frequent it happened. Okay? So that we can understand, okay? It happened. Okay? The possibility to happen. Okay, the possibility to happen. Okay, okay, like that. So, how often it happened, how frequent it happened, the possibility it could happen. Okay, this is the word could because it is possible. Could, C-O-U-D. The declaration of uncertainty. If you use could. Okay, there's also differentiation how to use could and would. Okay, it's also to use must and shall in English. Be careful also in your statement. Okay, would, could, must, and shall. Okay, but here we use could because possibility. It's not you really have the chance to happen. 100% could. We need to say the possibility it could happen. Okay, that's likelihood. Now, for severity, or we'll see also another term, the probability. Okay, the probability it occurs. Okay, the probability it occurs. But you know, Nibush is using the word probability always. Okay, just like a math, probability and statistics, right? So I love also the words probability. I use this always in the answer in my international examination. Always, you know, this probability. Because I love it. Wow! Really. Okay? Things like that. Okay. So severity, what is this all about? So when you mean severity, you will consider the degree. Okay? The degree, you will consider the impact. Okay, the consequence. Okay, the effect. Okay. Like that. So these are all the same in understanding, not literal. Okay, severe. How severe is that? Meaning to say you're considering the degree. Okay, where it is very high, it's very low, like this. Okay, then you are also considering the impact of that, or the consequence itself, or the effect. So it's gonna be like that. But in OSF, they always use the word severity. But that means only the same thing. But others also sources use impact. Okay? Like that. So take care with how it is being presented and use that always because, you know, so that it will not confuse you. As long as it is in your brain cells, the severity have the same meaning with degree, impact, consequence, and effect. Okay? Ano na lang. So what is being presented most of the times, use that as a terminology during your preparation of safety procedure, things like that, or resistance or whatever. You can use it in a sentence or whatever, right? Things like that. Okay. Now, so things like that then, we are speaking of rating at risk rating. So we need to rate so that we can rank. That's why we have risk ranking. Because it's impossible to rank without rating. Or grading. Like that, or rating, it's more higher than grading only, right? Risk ranking. So, since we need to rank, then we go to the severity, of course. Then, the three terms very important is always low, medium, and high. No other. Low, medium, and high. Ay, what uglain mo? Low, average. Like it. Always low, medium, high. L and H. Put that in your neurons. L and H. Capital L, capital M, capital H. Low, medium, eh what? Low, average, somewhat average, ganun, major, very high. Wa may anak, yes, tulungan man na guys, low, medium, high. Okay, pero if there are certain others also have very high, that's only specific to their particular risk assessment in their company. But what I'm trying, this is universal, meaning only three like in shop. We have low, medium, high, no other. Once it is very high, it's under high. Okay, get the point. Anak siya. Then once it is average, that is medium. Once it is moderate, then it is medium also. Okay, minimal, that is also low. And if it is rare, meaning under also low. You got, or it is negligible, it's under also low. As long as there always three, L and H. Low, medium, high are the key terms for your severity. Here. Okay. Now since we have rating, it's impossible that we don't have a formula. In math, when we have rating and we need to rank, then we compute the grades of the students who will become the top 10 in the class, then we need to have a formula. Or else we cannot compute who among them will be the top number 1. So we need to use the same here also in the risk assessment, you have to use the formula. So the formula here is risk is equals to the likelihood times the severity. Okay? Take note this also because some training centers will not discuss in this way. They will go directly and then not all will understand really. This is my only own research also sometimes, okay? Because I need to know really because they are only more on money. These trainers, external party, they will never go by direct, sincere and heartfelt discussion so that the audience can learn a lot. Sometimes it's only secondary in their discussion. So supposedly it should be the number 1 target of their objective, regardless of money, right? To discuss very well so that they can learn knowledge, regardless of you are paid, okay, or not. Though you are paid really because you're an external participant, but sometimes I observe that also. They go directly without emphasizing really, and the students will be like that, understandable. All all I have to do is to finish class. You will go out like that, and later on come back like this, just for the sake of participation, money, certificates. Guys, the world is not like that. You have to learn and apply that in day-to-day life. That's why you need to attend the training, so that you need to apply that. Okay? So if you cannot apply that, that is useless. Okay? So it's not all about money. You need to learn and apply that in your daily life. Because safety is every day. Every second, every minute, every hour, every day, century, millennia, whatever. Okay? So we should change our mental state, our mindset. Okay, that we need to pay only because we need the certificate. No, it's not, because it will reflect later on when you are now in the work or whatever, right? So it's like you are dummy, things like that. Okay, I'm not speaking to all, so I'm speaking to under circumstances, subjective again. Okay, you get the point. So diba, parang, you know what I mean? Okay, so rest is equals to likelihood times severity. And I discussed already severity, right? Okay. And then the rest also. And the likelihood. Likelihood is L because the first letter is L. And the severity S because the first letter of severity is S. Usay man gud guys ang mga trainers, dito lang yung mahibong sa mga buhat ng mga letters, wa mo pasok dito sa banga. Okay, for example, the instructor are having the likelihood times I. Okay, and then his graph is showing severity. And then where's the I there? Because impact and severity is just the same. Then you can have been illustrate or emphasize with your students. Because they're using now I, which represents impact, not already severity. Things like small and minor details can confuse the audience of your training, your session, things like that. So it could be also L times I, L times D, L times C, L times E. The first letter of effect, consequence, impact, and degree. It's not all the time severity also. Okay, you get the point. Then if you discuss that you use severity in your graph and then you put I, what is that I all about? Then you have to state impact. You have to put the words. Okay, you will say likelihood times impact. You will never state the initial because in your graph severity you put things like that. You're inconsistent. You get the points. It also confuse the students. Okay, so that's why we need to be elaborative in our discussion. You know, the personality of being elaborative. Wow. Okay, you should elaborate things like this. Okay, nakakaloka. Okay, so muna na siya ha. Na mag-drawing na tayo. Let's draw the matrix. The rest matrix. Okay. But actually, guys, through experience, you know, it's automatic ha. If you are, you know, working na, you'll never go back to this. But you know, understood na yan. Okay, you get the point. Okay. So this is only for the beginners. Okay. Or the, what do you call this one? Beginners or the entry level or the neophyte. It's another term, right? Neophyte. Neophyte. The same as entry level and beginners. Okay. Neophyte talaga. Yes. Okay. Ganon, uy. Nakakaloka man yung uy. Which you can make sure this do chart. Okay, ganon. So, I'll stop this vlog. Then, I go to the other vlog later on. Kay mukhaon sa kukuan. Spanish bread. Char. O, diba? Spanish bread kaayo, uy. In fairness. O, ganon. Diba mga palangga kong hitad? Ganon siya. Char. Okay, guys. Uy, matuog tarog sa